I learned to hunt and to fish from my uncles and from my dad. My uncles would take me out with them during the summer. My dad was working down in the valley, but I was in Louisiana. And so Uncle Bun, Uncle Ellie, Uncle Charles, they would all take me to all of these crazy swamp places because my grandfather Blackburn had been a foreman with the timber company that cut the cypress trees from the swamps back when that was first being harvested. And my daddy and his brothers spent a lot of time down in those bottomlands, and they knew it like the back of their hands. So I really had a first-class nature education in these bottomlands. And I can remember particularly my Uncle Charles, and he stuttered a bit, and he said, Jim, there's a good God bird. And I said, what? And he said, yeah, like, good God, look at that woodpecker. And I think he was describing the ivory-billed. It would have still been around in the 30s when they were down in those woods. And it really struck me. And of course, they were in East Texas. But this is a species that, at least as far as we know, has disappeared from the earth. And the loss of a species it's a big deal. It is the end of a strain of DNA. It is the end of a adaptation. It is the end of something that nature created and that I guess was formed by evolution. And it just strikes me. I have litigated to protect endangered species. And it's a bit like having a death penalty case in criminal law, because you're really fighting to preserve a species, the habitat that species relies upon. And I mean, it's a very serious undertaking. The Endangered Species Act is a very powerful act, but for good reason, because the threat is a very powerful threat. I've always been very careful about litigating under the Endangered Species Act because it is so strong. And there's always a fear in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals out of New Orleans, which is where all of our Texas cases would be appealed to. They're the worst environmental circuit in the United States. So there's a good chance that they could really strip the Endangered Species Act of its strength if we aren't careful. So there's always a bit of nervousness about one of those cases. But now in the case of the ivory-billed woodpecker, we never got a chance to litigate to protect it. And I think that is what this poem is really about, is really lamenting the fact that this is a species that's gone. It's been lost. And that's a bad thing for us. It's a bad thing for me as a person who loves birds. That beautiful ivory bill on a huge woodpecker, something I'll never see. The ivory-billed woodpecker. I've heard the story about my uncles when they were boys. A story about how they saw down in the Cocodrie swamp a bird that my Uncle Charles called the good God woodpecker, as in, good God, look at that woodpecker. It happened during the 30s, and I always wondered if they were talking about the ivory-billed, a magnificent bird that has been denied to me, a bird that I may never see, a bird that has apparently ceased to be. It's just not here anymore. It isn't simply that one specimen died, but instead it's that an entire species has left the earth, left us with less, left me wishing for the good God for whom it was named, the same good God with whom I am angry for letting us humans be so blind, for letting us destroy other living things without thought and without care. Ah, good God, I miss that woodpecker.